So here we are in 2025, and it feels like there's this um, weird situation, doesn't it? We've got all this amazing tech, endless information, ways to connect globally.
Right. Unprecedented connectivity.
Exactly. But despite all that, it seems like so many of us are feeling more stressed, maybe more anxious than ever. There's this constant buzz, this digital noise, social media pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we're swimming in information but starving for, well, maybe wisdom or just inner quiet.
That's it. That feeling of losing grip on our own reactions or happiness even. It's a real puzzle.
It really is. We feel kind of tossed around by things, by our emotions, like you said, losing control or maybe feeling like we never had it.
Feeling like we're in emotional servitude, as you put it before we started, that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that term captures something, I think, being ruled by reactions we don't fully understand.
Okay, but what if there's an answer? Not a new one, actually, but something, well, ancient. A radical way of thinking from centuries ago that might offer a path to, I don't know, real emotional strength, inner
Yeah.
calm.
And we're not talking about, a quick self-help fix here. This is deep stuff.
Yeah.
A really rigorous philosophy laid out by this 17th century thinker.
Baruch Spinoza. And his ideas were so challenging, apparently he got himself excommunicated.
He did indeed. That tells you something about how revolutionary his thinking was back then.
Yeah.
And maybe still is.
Excommunicated. Okay, so let's dive in. This is our deep dive today into Spinoza and specifically his major work, The Ethics. We want to unpack his ideas about reality, about emotions, and see, how they might actually help us find some inner freedom today. We're going straight to the ethics for this.
Definitely. And just a heads up for everyone listening, Spinoza's starting point, especially about God and free will, it can be quite jarring at first. It challenges a lot of common assumptions.
Okay, good warning. So where does he start building this picture, this map of reality?
Well, he starts really big. He basically says there's only one fundamental thing that exists, one infinite eternal substance.
Just one.
Just one. And he calls it God or nature, deus sive natura.
God or nature. So not necessarily the personal God figure many people think of.
Exactly. Not an old man in the sky kind of God. Think of it more as the entirety of reality itself. Everything.
Yeah.
The universe, all its laws, all its potential. It's self-causing, self-sufficient. It doesn't need anything else to exist or be understood.
He defines it as that which is in itself and is conceived through itself, right? Meaning it just is.
Precisely. And this one substance, God or nature, has infinite qualities, infinite attributes, as he calls them. We humans might only perceive two like, mind and body, or thought and physical extension, but Spinoza suggests there are infinitely more aspects to this total reality.
Wow. Okay. So if God is nature, is this one substance than everything else? Us, trees, planets, thoughts.
We're all just modes or modifications of that one substance. They are in God nature. As he puts it, whatever is in God, and nothing can exist or be conceived without God. Nothing is outside the system.
Okay, that's a huge idea. And it leads somewhere pretty radical, doesn't it, about how things happen?
It leads directly to determinism. If everything is part of this single, unified nature operating by its own inherent laws, then everything that happens must happen exactly as it does.
Everything is determined. No randomness. No accidents.
According to Spinoza, no. Everything follows necessarily from the nature of God nature. It unfolds according to unbreakable laws. Think of it like a vastly complex mathematical equation. The result is inevitable based on the components.
So our feeling of making free choices, like deciding what coffee to order, Spinoza would say.
He'd say that feeling of freedom is largely an illusion based on ignorance. We're aware of our desires and actions, but we're generally unaware of the complex chain of causes that determine those desires and actions.
Okay, my head's spinning a bit. If everything's determined, what happens to ideas like good and evil, or even beauty?
That's the next big leap. For Spinoza, concepts like good, evil, beauty, ugliness, order, chaos, these aren't objective features of nature, they're human judgments.
Human projections.
Exactly. Modes of imagination, he calls them, or prejudices. They arise because we see things from our limited perspective based on how things affect us. Nature itself just is. It doesn't grade itself. An earthquake isn't evil from nature's view. It's just a consequence of geological laws. We call it bad because of its impact on human life and property.
This is fundamentally shifting how you'd see the world. And if good and evil are human constructs, then our emotions, anger, joy, fear, they must be seen differently too, not as like sins or virtues.
Precisely. He treats emotions as natural phenomena. just like gravity or weather patterns. They are affections of the body, physical changes, and the ideas of those affections are mental awareness of them.
So feeling angry isn't inherently bad. It's just a thing that happens in the system.
It's an effect, following necessarily from certain causes, both internal and external. Judging it morally misses the point for Spinoza. The key isn't to judge it, but to understand it.
Understand its causes within this determined system.
Yes. And this understanding, this clear-sighted comprehension of the necessity of all things within God nature, that is the path to peace. This leads to what he calls the intellectual love of God.
Okay, let's unpack that. Intellectual love of God. It sounds religious, but given what you've said.
It's not about emotional worship in the typical sense. It's the profound understanding and acceptance of this unified, deterministic reality. It's seeing the elegant necessity of how everything fits together and finding a kind of serene joy in that understanding.
A joy in clarity, in seeing the system as it is.
Exactly. It's the highest form of human happiness for Spinoza, a stable peace that comes from knowing, not from fleeting circumstances.
Okay, so that's the big picture, this unified, deterministic nature where good and evil are relative and emotions are natural events. Understanding this system leads to peace. But how do our day-to-day emotions, our passions, fit in? And why do they often seem to block that peace?
Right. This is where he gets really practical in a way. He dives into the geometry of desire, as you called it. He makes this crucial distinction between passions and active emotions.
Passions versus active emotions, what's the difference?
Passions are emotions where we are primarily passive. We're being acted upon by external things. And crucially, these feelings arise from what he calls inadequate ideas.
Inadequate ideas, meaning?
Meaning confused, partial, or unclear understanding. When we react emotionally without grasping the true, full causes of the situation or our reaction, we're experiencing a passion. We're essentially being driven by ignorance.
Give me an example, like that road rage thing.
Perfect example. You feel intense anger because someone cut you off. That anger is a passion. It comes from an inadequate idea. You only see their action and your feeling. You don't know why they did it. You don't see the whole causal network. Maybe you don't even understand the deeper reasons for your own strong reaction.
So passions are linked to ignorance, to not seeing the whole picture. Fear, envy, anger. These are common ones.
Definitely. They spring from not understanding the necessity of events or the true causes of our feelings. Our ideas are inadequate when they come just from raw senses or imagination or hearsay, rather than clear, rational understanding of the connections. We grasp only a fragment.
And this feeling of being acted upon, this servitude we mentioned, it feels like you're just swept away.
Exactly. And Spinoza made a really key observation here, something very relevant today. Trying to just suppress these passions usually backfires.
You can't just stuff them down.
He argued it doesn't really work. As long as the inadequate idea, the root misunderstanding, is still there, the passion remains potent. Pushing it down might hide it, but it doesn't resolve it. It's like holding a beach ball underwater.
Yeah, it'll pop right back up, maybe even harder.
Precisely. You're still subject to its influence, just maybe less obviously for a bit. The underlying confusion hasn't been addressed.
Okay, so if suppression isn't the answer, how do we deal with these passions? How do we move towards those active emotions you mentioned? How do we find serenity?
The key for Spinoza is understanding. It's about transforming those passive emotions, the passions, into active ones.
And how does that happen?
It happens when we gain a clear and distinct understanding, an adequate idea of the emotion and its true causes. He literally says that when we form an adequate idea of a passion, it ceases to be a passion.
It stops being a passion just by understanding it fully.
Its nature changes. Once you understand why you feel that road rage, maybe connecting it to your stress levels, your beliefs about respect, the objective fact that the other driver's actions were determined by their own chain of causes, the raw passive anger transforms. It becomes less of something that blindly controls you and more something you understand about yourself and the world.
So the understanding itself diffuses its power.
Yes. You move from being pushed around by it, passive, to actively comprehending it within the larger necessary order of things.
This connects back to his idea of freedom then. True freedom isn't some magical free will to defy causality.
Right, he'd say that's impossible anyway. True freedom is understanding necessity. It's moving from being a puppet reacting out of ignorance to consciously aligning yourself with how things actually are through knowledge.
Knowing the rules of the game, essentially, and playing it skillfully instead of just being bounced around.
That's a good way to put it. Understanding the currents of the river, like we said, and navigating with that knowledge.
No.
And he believed This pursuit of knowledge, this understanding of God nature, isn't just a means to an end, it is the highest joy.
The greatest good of the mind is the knowledge of God.
And the greatest virtue of the mind is to know God. Yes, that intellectual love, that deep comprehension brings a stable, profound joy that isn't dependent on external ups and downs. It's the joy of clarity itself.
Okay, this is powerful stuff. So let's bring it home. How can someone listening right now start applying this? What are some practical takeaways from Spinoza for finding serenity in, daily life?
Well, based on his philosophy, we can sort of extract some strategies. First, really challenge your own assumptions and reactions. When you feel a strong negative emotion, anxiety, anger, resentment, pause. Instead of just reacting, ask, what am I really reacting to? What are the underlying assumptions I'm making? Am I seeing the whole picture? Actively question those immediate, often incomplete ideas.
Like journaling about it, maybe. Trying to trace the feeling back to its roots.
Exactly. Reflective practice. Seeking the true causes, not just the surface trigger. Second, practice embracing determinism.
That sounds hard, accepting that things couldn't have been otherwise.
It is hard, initially, but it's about recognizing the futility of raging against what is, especially what's already happened. It doesn't mean being passive about the future, but accepting the reality of the present and past frees up energy. Instead of wishing things were different, you focus on understanding why they are as they are and what your next necessary action is from this point.
So if you miss that flight, instead of fuming about what should have happened, you accept, okay, this happened due to a chain of causes. Now, what's the next logical step?
Precisely. It shifts you from frustrated victim to, well, a rational agent navigating reality. And finally, continuously strive to cultivate adequate ideas.
Meaning, keep learning, keep seeking deeper understanding.
Yes. About the world, about human nature, about yourself. The more you understand the interconnectedness of things, the necessary laws of nature, including emotional nature, the less power those confusing, partial, inadequate ideas will have over you. You become more active in your emotional life because your feelings start to align with clear understanding rather than confused reactions.
It's about building that robust internal framework you mentioned.
Exactly. Reading, reflecting, reasoning, strengthening your capacity for clear and distinct understanding.
So ultimately, Spinoza's offering a kind of freedom, isn't he? But it's not freedom from the world or its difficulties.
No, it's freedom within the world. It's the liberation that comes from seeing things clearly, understanding the necessary order, and finding your place within it with acceptance and knowledge, rather than being tossed about by passions born of ignorance.
Moving from being passively acted upon to actively acting with clarity and purpose.
Guided by reason and that deep understanding, that intellectual love of God nature, it's a shift from servitude to, well, a kind of empowered understanding.
It's a profound message, really, that true peace, true freedom isn't about fighting reality or suppressing ourselves, but about understanding reality deeply. Understanding ourselves is part of it.
Absolutely. It's quite a revolutionary path to inner peace, even today.
So the final thought for everyone listening. What if your journey to inner serenity, to that profound emotional freedom Spinoza talks about, doesn't start with trying to change everything out there? What if it starts today, right now, by choosing to change how you understand it all, including yourself within this vast, intricate, necessary unfolding of nature?